Alright, so I am very excited because the video prepared for the CCHI has 36 likes upon checking about 15 minutes ago. So that means we still have 64 more likes to go for us to be able to post this the MIP 21 video to YouTube. And of course we only have 14 more likes so that our Patreons can actually go ahead and start practicing with this first video of the new season for medical interpretation practice video series. And that is not all. Once we post this video to YouTube, we're gonna give everyone a chance to comment, and after some time we are going to pick two comments at random, I should say, and the people who commented are going to get a chance to go ahead and send us their recordings to MIP 22, their interpretations. That way we can have a look at them, hear them, and give them some feedback. So let's get on that, guys. I know that we can do it. We are already at 36. We are a little bit more than a third of the way, so I know we can do it. Let's do it, guys. I'm very excited about this, and I just can't wait to hear the comments that you have about this new series. Hopefully they're all positive, and if not, hopefully they will all be positive criticism. That way we can improve upon them in the future. You know, we're all open to new ideas, and we always love getting new ideas from you guys. So having said that, hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift I give the highlights of my workday and answer any questions that might have been asked at a previous session. My name is Juan. I am an English, Spanish, medical video, remote consecutive interpreter with over 4 years of experience. Today is Thursday, July 29, 2021, and today I took a total of 28 sessions. It was, like always, audio sessions and video sessions, of course, more video sessions than everything. I did have a pretty long call today. It was an over the phone session. Well, I shouldn't say pretty long. It was be less than an hour. It didn't even make it to an hour, maybe 45-50 minutes. So that's always nice. Long audio sessions, I love them, because of course I can almost like lay down while I'm interpreting, right? Not being in a good posture like if I'm in video like I am right now, right? So that's always good. And there was only one highlight today that I think is worth mentioning, and this is a problem that I've had in the past, and it was brought to my attention that I should improve upon it when I mentioned it here in Unwind Sessions. And it's something that I have been working on, and every time that I get a chance to actually practice how to improve upon it, I do it. So this time what happened, it was that a session came in, and then there was a patient and the mother. Of course, the patient spoke Spanish and the mother didn't. So one thing that I did not used to do is I would just play it by ear, and I would just see what happened. Depending on the session, I would adapt, and I would just do whatever felt right at that time. But after having conflict with some mothers, some patients, some providers, I just started deciding that maybe that was not the best route, and that I should actually ask the provider how they wanted me to handle the situation. That can sometimes get difficult. So to avoid that problem, I did, and I asked the provider. I told her, I'm sorry, ma'am, before we begin this session, I find it difficult sometimes just to know what to interpret. So if you could be so kind as to let me know what you need me to interpret, or if we can ask the patient's mother what she would like for me to interpret, I think that'll make it much easier. And I was very surprised, very, very surprised by her response. You know what her response was? Let's just play it by ear. So, I mean, I wanted to correct the situation. I wanted to make it better. I wanted to have an advantage for myself. And the doctor just threw it all away, right? So I was like, all right, maybe I shouldn't have even asked that. So I'm still going to keep on asking because most of the time they always have come up with a solution that is perfect for whoever needs it. And still, whenever they give you like the perfect solution and that's what they want, you shouldn't follow it 100. You should always be there ready, taking cues, like to know if you should really interpret something or not, which makes it like very, very difficult as opposed to a patient not speaking English and speaking directly to the doctor. Then you know that for the most part, unless the patient answers, then you will have to interpret everything, right? But when it's a difficult situation like that, like you don't know what to do, so I guess the doctor's answer was perfect. Let's just play it by ear. But just to be safe, I will always ask beforehand, whenever I can, right? All right, so that is something that I wanted to mention to you guys. And now let's get to what you came here for. Now, there was a question by one of our viewers, Chloe Cash, and she said, I would like to know if any of the team has any experience with document translation, because I would like to know if anyone can recommend any resources, tips on proofreading your translation for accuracy. Now, I am going to tell you my proofreading history. Now, I remember that back in my high school days in the USA, in my senior year to be exact, I remember this a lot because I used to get the feeling that it was very, very annoying for me. And let me tell you what happened. So I was in my English senior year, right? And then my class, for some reason, had a lot of problems with proofreading their essays and assignments in English class, right? So since this was going on, my teacher had the bright idea to say the following. Okay, class, I know that everybody has been having problems proofreading, and this was like what, 2005, so that was like a long time ago. It was like we had to turn in work with just pen and paper. That was like, I guess people turned in type things and they asked us for type things back then, but that was not the norm. Like every essay was written, not typed, and so we had no Word. We had we had Word and everything, right? But I wasn't using it to do my schoolwork. So okay, back to the story. Sorry about that. I just had to put it in context. And my English teacher had the bright idea to tell everyone, all right, I see how everybody is struggling with the punctuation, the spelling, and everything, and you guys are just turning in some work that could be better. If you guys are struggling, you could give it to someone else to proofread for you. And if you don't have anyone, well, you can always give it to Juan. He is turning in some pretty good work. So I was like, oh man, come on, why? Right? I was like, so I already have my high school work and you're going to give me more work? And yeah, so it turns out that almost, at least I had 5 people, like the day that they had to turn in the assignment or a couple of days before, at least 5 people would come up to me and they'll be like, hey, can you give me a hand? Can you please proofread this for me before I turn it in? And of course, I'd be like, oh, all right, whatever. And I would do it, right? And I would do my best, and I would do a good job, or at least I think I would do a good job. And now I am turning in college work here in Mexico at a Mexican university. And now I am using Word and everything, and very rarely do I get marked down for proofreading. Of course, this is in Spanish, and one thing that I gotta say is that I'm not very good at accents with Spanish, so Word is magical for that. So if I had to rate my proofreading skills, I would probably give myself a B. So I'm not the best, but I'm okay, and maybe whatever I proofread can be given to someone else that has a much better score, that can provide a much better proofreading. But I'm pretty sure that if you give something that I've proofread, there will be just minor mistakes. So just for you guys to keep that in mind. All right, and I actually went ahead and I read a couple of articles. I am going to reference one article though for your answer, which is from smglanguages.com, and it is titled How to Proofread Translations. So to start, what are we looking for when we proofread? Well, we want to check that the spelling is correct, right? You don't want to turn in a paper that has a lot of spelling mistakes, right? That's going to look horrible on your part, and they're probably never going to hire you again. Now, grammar as well, that is something very important, right? If something just sounds funky, like in yesterday's video, I wrote down glucose blood meter for some reason, and I wrote it down and I didn't even notice it until I read it out loud and I said it on the video, right? I was like, oh, that's not correct. And I was still unsure though, but I clarified it in the video. So yeah, grammar is something that needs to be on point, and correct use of words, of course, and of course punctuation. Are you ending the sentences correctly? Is it a run-on? Where are you supposed to place a comma? Whatever, yeah, right, all of that stuff that I personally struggle on. All right, and so for tip number one is a spell checker. Now, I can personally tell you that there is nothing I am not going, well, I can personally tell you that I use Word, and there is nothing that I write or publish that is not going into Word before I actually publish it. Even the comments that I answer here, I use Word before actually placing them. That way they are correct, and everything that I do that goes, that I have to post, I make sure that I run it by Word before I even post it. And one thing that Word is perfect is because, like I already mentioned, I'm not good with accents in Spanish, so this just makes my homework much easier. And I already told you that everything I run by Word before I actually publish it. And whenever I do translation Word, of course, I will do it on Word. I tried Google Docs, but for some reason, I don't know, I don't like it. I'm probably too used to Word that I don't think I'll be using anything else. And as far as other spell checkers and stuff, I know that Carla, which is my sister, she is our video editor, and you've seen her in some videos as well. She uses Grammarly, and I know that Blue, or Adrian I should say, he is like my brother as well, and he is our audio technician, and he also uses Grammarly. Now, I don't use Grammarly because I don't know how to use it, but I do suggest that you use it. I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I'm probably gonna be using it in the future. I don't know when, but it is certainly in my bucket list. Learn how to use Grammarly, that way I don't turn in things with so many mistakes. And so as far as suggestions for spell checkers, you're gonna have to do that Google search, and I'm sure you will get lots of results and suggestions. Some tips though, whenever you're doing the spell checker, now there might be some times when you will actually have to look up some words. I know that I came across this whenever I'm doing vocabulary lists for medical things. Sometimes for some reason Word doesn't have all of the medical words and I have to look them up in Google, and I have to check them that they're correct, and then I have to bring them back into Word. So just a word of caution, not every word is going to be there. And autocorrect is a lifesaver, but it can be a pain in the ass for real, because whenever you're writing something and then maybe you misspell it, and then autocorrect puts it to a word, and if it doesn't show you the mistake that it's not spelled correctly, sometimes I might miss it. So you have to look out for that as well. And of course, you have to select the correct language that you are checking. If not, you're just going to get a whole bunch of mistakes. So that was tip number 1, use a spell checker. Tip number 2, take a break. I would say that the longer the break, the better, but at least a 15-minute break should suffice. And if you can actually like just finish everything and then just get back at it the next day, I feel like, or the next morning, I feel like that is the best, because you've been away from your work for at least 8 hours, right? You go to bed and you wake up, so that's 8 hours that you have not been thinking about that. And once you come back, your mind is fresh. You are not so annoyed by all of that, because it, in my case, it can get like very tedious. You're looking for every little detail. So then my mind just gets so clogged up, so fogged up, I should say. And then all of a sudden, everything just looks good and I cannot find any mistakes. So I will take at least a 15-minute break every 2 hours. But I find that if you come back to your work to proofread after a day, you are going to find so many mistakes that I think that is best. But of course, do whatever you find best and experiment to make sure that you can do something that works for you. So that was number 2, take a break. Number 3, make sure to concentrate. Now, if you need silence to proofread, if you need music, if you need coffee, or if it needs to be in the morning, if it needs to be at night, whatever you need to do to make sure that you can just concentrate on your work and not check your phone or check Facebook or whatever. There's no distractions or anything, that you can just concentrate 100%, focus on that. I find that like this tips or this article says, that is the best moment to actually, and sometimes it's not a perfect moment. You have to create the perfect moment, and you are going to be able to find much mistakes if you are actually concentrating and you make sure that everything is perfect, so that you can just concentrate on your work. And something else that I would like to add to this is get some sleep. If it's, for example, me, if I am proofreading at midnight, there is no way that I'm gonna be proofreading at that time. I'm already yawning and it's time for me to go to bed. So get some sleep. If you're sleeping, you're not going to be able to concentrate, right? So make sure you get some sleep as well. Number 4, keep common errors in mind. Check numbers, names, titles, capital letters. Is it out? Is it on? Is it in? Is it your, or is it your? Is it your, mine, or you? Is it your notebook, or is it your, our, mine? Yeah, your or your, right? Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, that kind of stuff for English. And of course, common stuff for your target language. One thing that comes to mind that I miss a lot in Spanish, it's the inverted question mark, right? Because of course I went to school in the US since 4th grade till high school. So I was in school more in the US than in Mexico, and so I'm more used to like American grammar and punctuation and stuff, and that's something that I really miss. And sometimes you are going to miss it as well, so just make sure that those little mistakes that are just so common and things that you personally do, make sure that you are aware of it, and that way you can just correct it quickly. Number 5, go ahead and read it out loud. Reading it out loud sometimes makes you hear the translation and might help you pick up on some mistakes that you could not see if you were only like sight reading, right? And one thing that I have noticed, of course, you're probably not going to be able to do this with everything, because some things should be confidential and should not be shared with everyone. But whenever you have the opportunity to read your translation outside to someone, now you are going to be cringing and you are going to feel embarrassed, believe me, because I've done that. And you are going to be noticing every little mistake whenever you are reading it for someone else, right? Nobody wants to look like a fool, so your mind is working full time to make sure that it is good and it is perfect. And I found it that is one of the best ways to actually find mistakes. And of course, having somebody else read it for you is also a good way. All right, so that was read it out loud. Number 6 is check the punctuation. I have already mentioned this, the inverted question mark, right? And one thing that I struggle on is, for example, that question, right? Of course, whenever you say something and then you say right at the end, it's a comma and then right and then a question mark. And I had to learn that because whenever I was writing scripts, the scripts for the original medical interpretation practice, that is something that I struggled on. So that's something that I learned. So yeah, just make sure you check the punctuation. Number 7, formatting. Make sure that the document is the same throughout. The same style, the same fonts, the same page layout, paragraphs, indentations, line spacing, paragraph spacing, margins, and text alignment. Now, of course, that is not that really much grammar, spelling, and all of that, but it is also important, and it is going to make your work look much more professional. So that is something that you actually have to look out as well. And number 8, which is the last tip in the article, it says make a checklist. Make a checklist of all the needs that you need for proofreading translations, and make sure that you are checking everything off in that list before actually turning in that paperwork and considering that paper finished, right? I started using checklists whenever I was doing the scripts for the original practice videos, because we published the scripts on Patreon and also the translation for the scripts. And like at the beginning, of course, I didn't do checklists and I thought that everything was finished. And then, like, for some reason, I had to come back to read that document, and then I would notice more mistakes, and I would be like, oh man, how did I ever miss them? So I realized that checklists were very important. So I have my little proofreading checklist of things that I will actually proofread, that I will actually need to check and correct while proofreading, right? That way I don't miss anything and everything just looks perfect. And that is a very, very good advice, I would say, for a lot of things, not just for proofreading. But yeah, definitely checklists are really, really going to make a difference between actually making sure that you did every little task that you need while proofreading. Definitely. All right, and I'm gonna give you another tip, and this is a personal tip for me. Go ahead and read anything, just books, magazines, whatever. But don't just read it. If you're like me, if you pick up a book and you read it, you are only going to understand what it says, but you are not going to pay attention to the grammar, spelling, or anything else, right? Maybe the spelling, but punctuation, grammar, and all of that, maybe if it sounds funky, you'll pick up on it. But for some reason, I have to like concentrate and consciously look at what they're doing in the written work, like for example where that comma goes, where that question mark, and the spelling and everything. But you have to make a conscious effort, if you're like me, to actually look at everything, and it really works because you're picking up on what they're doing, right? This is like documents that have actually been proofread by hopefully by people that are very, very good at it, and especially if they're books. So if you actually pay attention to what they're doing in those books and what you're reading and every line, that is going to give you much more insight and knowledge to know how exactly is that you have to structure sentences. For example, that's like one thing that I noticed that I struggle a lot. Like, is this sentence a run-on? Can I put an and, but, whatever, you know? And when to end the sentence, that is something that I struggle on. And just reading books is something that really, really has helped me to improve on that. Another thing is that Word will actually put like a blue line whenever something is written funky, and sometimes it doesn't sound bad for us, but I've noticed that if you actually like for example, I have one right here and it says missing that, consider revising. But okay, so that's easy, but then sometimes it just gives you like grammar rules, like for example passive voice, and if you actually don't know what that is and you look it up, it'll give you a lot of insight into what that is and how to correct it in the future, and that has really helped me a lot as well. So go ahead and pick up a book or something that you know has been proofread by professionals, and that'll give you like the best insight and knowledge that will aid you in making proofreading and finding mistakes or not making mistakes from the start a little bit easier. So I hope that answered your question, and I hope that this will help you improve in your proofreading. And that is going to be pretty much it for me today. Remember that I'll be here every Monday through Friday after work. Please leave your questions in the comments and I will answer some of them on the next session. And if anything is time sensitive and you need an answer right away because you might have a test in 2 days, go ahead and leave it in the comments and I will get to those questions before everyone else's. All right, and remember, we're still trying to get 100 likes for the video titled Prepare for the CCHI. That way we can release the MIP 21 video. So let's get on that, guys. I will leave a link in the description and I probably will put a card at the beginning, so that way we can get that video to 100 likes. Also remember that we have a Patreon page where with as little as $1 of your support, you help motivate us to create much more content, and we give you access to everything in that page. The medical practice videos ad free, scripts, answer sheets, vocabulary lists, and much more content. And of course, the most important thing is that you will win a place inside of our heart. We love you, all of our Patreons. We love you, to all of our subscribers. We love you to everyone that has bought us a coffee. And everyone that is watching this right now, we also love you as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video and have not done so for more content. And don't forget to share. Happy interpreting. Goodbye.